Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of F1 24 Career Mode here on the channel. Hope you're all having a great day. Today we're headed south for the Mexican Grand Prix, fresh off of our second control electronics failure of the season here. And as well, I didn't really highlight this last episode. It was announced aerodynamics are going to be changing going into season 2. I did touch upon this, but I really wanted to put this into the limelight this episode. So it is confirmed. Regulation changes, aerodynamics department will be changing. So we kind of spent this week specifically adapting some parts and whatnot to kind of set Williams up for the best it can be going into next season as we head into practice. And we had some questions actually as to why we chose Trackhouse Racing for our future team.
So Gary, why Trackhouse?
They've really put on a promising kind of vision. I really believe this is a team that's going to be a championship contender in about 3 years' time. But on top of that, I mean, them giving me the opportunity to go elsewhere and showcase what F1 drivers are capable of in other vehicles is kind of the big thing for me.
Williams wanted to bring you back, and they are on a good trajectory right now. Did you think about that in your decision?
Yeah, Ted, of course. I mean, this team's looking really good right now. They're going in a great direction, and I think they're going to be honestly great on the grid next season. But I think for my long-term future, I think that I've made the best decision. I had a good talk with Sebastian Vettel, of course, you guys know. Been a big figure in my time here in Formula 1 so far, and actually he's here this weekend, so maybe you can ask him a little bit as well. So that was a bit of a conversation. Natalie Pinkham, Ted Kravitz as well, as we were focused in here on, well, just racing or practicing, I should say. And I was overall quite happy with the car. Now, you saw in the beginning of the episode there, we were changing some components out of the car. So we are going to be taking a grid penalty this weekend, meaning we're going to be starting towards the bottom of the grid, probably actually the very bottom of the grid. So it is going to be raining in qualifying, but we are going to still take part in qualifying just as we usually would, even though we know that we will be starting down the order. I still like to use qualifying, even if I know we're going to be starting in the back, as just a tool to see, okay, where's our pace in the car? It might put a little bit extra wear on the engine and whatnot. That's not going to help our car, but I don't really care. So we roll into this weekend ready for these wet conditions, and we've had a few ups and downs so far when it comes to the rain conditions in our rookie season. We've had a few moments where we shined really well. We had moments in Singapore most recently where we really struggled in the wet conditions on the wet tire. My first lap in Q1 was only good enough for 18th place, so that was a bit of a concern, and looking for a little bit of time, we only found about 0.3 of a second. That puts us up into 15th behind our teammate of Alex Albon. But everybody was back on the racetrack here a little bit late in this session, and I knew it wasn't going to be enough. We found another 0.4, P13. I didn't feel like that was going to be enough either, so we had enough time for one more lap, and you can already see we're tumbling down the order, down to P16, but we haven't really found the time yet, so this is a bit concerning. This was my 4th lap at this point on the racetrack, and now down to 18th place, 19th place. Hamilton, he's going to go up the order once he crosses the line as I drop to 20th place. Lewis Hamilton goes up the board. He'll make it into Q2, and we are finding some time right at the end of the lap. Sergio Perez, however, is out because he is in P16 and he's not even on the track, so Perez is not going to make it in his home weekend, even into Q2. We round the final few turns and we found a bunch of time, nearly 0.7 of a second, so to the line, we needed to find the time, we do find it, and that puts us through into Q2. Only P13, however, so we didn't make it by much. Carlos Sainz, top of the board, out in Q1, Hulkenberg, Perez, Zhou Guanyu, Daniel Ricciardo, as well as Valtteri Bottas, as Leclerc as well, one of the drivers that just barely got through as we roll through into Q2 now. In this rain, it's supposed to stay steady, heavy the whole way through, so it's not going to change up, so it's going to be pretty straightforward. What we felt in Q1 is what we're going to feel in Q2 and Q3 as well here now, and this was a little bit late in this session as we only have 2 sets of wet tires to work with here in qualifying, so that means we're going to have to start Q3 with a worn set of wet tires. My first lap goes P11 behind my teammate of Alex Albon. However, I noticed nobody's come back onto the track. So this is what everyone's going to end qualifying with here in Q2. And we find 3/4 of a second right at the end of the lap. And that's going to boost us into the top 5. P5 on the board. And that's going to be enough to get into Q3 because no one else is making a lap. So we end up P5. And it's going to be Gasly being the last one in. And it's going to be Albon, Piastri, Tsunoda, Ocon, Magnussen all out in Q2. So we have stepped it up suddenly and have found the pace we need as we come through into Q3. And this is where it gets a bit awkward. I had basically a worn set of wets that I had to use because I'd already used the 2 fresh sets of wet tires. So my first lap, it wasn't terrible, it wasn't great, and I was coming through to cross the line and it was only P10, so that was a bit of a concern, and everybody's back on the track again except for Max Verstappen doing what Perez did in Q1. Will that come back to bite him? We're about to find out as we roll through these final few corners, starting that third and final sector now. When we find 3/10, 4/10, 5/10 even of a gain, but we lose it right there. So now back towards that 4/10 of a second range now through the final turn. We're going to get as hard as we can on that gas. It's going to be half a second gain to the line, and it's only going to be P2, which would equate to P10, which is why I said only P2. Of course, P2 would have been great, but Russell ends up top of the board. Verstappen drops to P9, and it's Norris, Sainz, Stroll, Leclerc, the top 5. Let's head to the grid.
Bienvenidos to the most populous city in North America. The legendary Jim Clark won the first official F1 race back in 1963 here, and we've had a veritable who's who of winners ever since. It's Mexico City, and therefore the Mexico City Grand Prix. The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, 2.6 miles of track that allows drivers to take full advantage of their cars, reaching speeds in excess of 220 miles per hour and providing lots of opportunities for overtaking. The circuit features 17 corners, 10 to the right and the remaining 7 going to the left. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. George Russell will begin today's event in pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Stroll, Leclerc, Hamilton, Gasly, Fernando Alonso, Albon, Oscar Piastri, Tsunoda, Sainz, Ocon, Magnussen, Hülkenberg, Perez, Joe, Ricciardo, Bottas, Golden Boy, and Max Verstappen completes the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Myself and Max Verstappen both start at the back of the grid with the grid penalties there, mediums and hards, or well, mediums to hards is what the strategy is going to be here today. A lot of work to be done. The question is, how hard is it going to be to pass with this long front straightaway and DRS playing a major role?
Here we go then, the formation lap gets underway and the excitement here is building as we near ever closer to the start of the race. Which team will come out on top? Who's got their strategies right for today's race? Well, we'll soon find out.
As expected, everybody starting on mediums.
As the cars come back towards the grid to line up for the start of the race, each driver will be wanting to get the best start they possibly can. And they'll be hoping to finish today's race on the podium, failing that, within the points.
Okay, mate, it might be a bit hard to pass here, so I need you to be patient.
Yeah, 10-4. Let's have a good day, guys, and just be on our toes. You never know what's going to happen here. I've had a lot of races in past F1 games where this circuit, it just kind of brings chaos. Not quite sure if we're going to see it here today, but nonetheless, you know, bringing our Williams number 5 up to the back of the grid here. P19 with Max Verstappen scored in 20th place here. Now a grid penalty for the potential 4-time world champion if he can hang on here for these final few rounds of the season. It's going to be 5 red lights and now lights out and we're racing George Russell and it's going to be, hold on, Lance Stroll, the Canadian, splits everybody on the start into the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix. Goes the Canadian in the Aston Martin. We know Aston Martin has been on it recently in the R&D. Look at the field spread out into turn 1-3 by 3. The 2 Mercedes with Charles Leclerc in the middle there, Russell on the far left, Hamilton on the right, at least in the screen perspective. Hamilton on the left side of the track, Russell on the right, but Leclerc gets through, takes P2. Look at the advantage that Lance Stroll has. He is gone as Hamilton and Russell are wheel to wheel. How about Pierre Gasly in the Alpine up here in the top 5? A great start for the French driver. As you can see, the pair of McLaren's Norris. Piastri there just behind. That's Piastri is the first running McLaren currently now. The two Mercedes get things sorted out, and for myself, I didn't really make up any ground at all. We were still here at the back and actually having a bit of a moment there, nearly running into the bank of Zhou Guanyu. Verstappen's trying to work his way forward. He's gotten, well, about 2, maybe 3 positions in this opening lap as we're slipping and sliding. We're struggling on this opening lap here. Immediately just looking at the tires, looking at the temperatures. Now another mistake, overshooting the corner. We go wide, we save it and get it back on track, and okay, that's 3 moments in a matter of 15 seconds. Okay, let's clean that up and focus in for these next 35 laps of racing. And immediately, we would be quite welcome to the fact that it's going to be very difficult to pass here today in Mexico for, I mean, at least the first part of this Grand Prix, where we won't be seeing any pit stops and everyone's just going to be clumped together. And yeah, it's not going to be easy. So I quickly have kind of understood the fact that I just have to settle in here. But already, look at this. Charles Leclerc has run down Lance Stroll for the lead of this Grand Prix. Leclerc 2 wins on the season, looking for a third. Stroll is going to try and keep it around that outside and hold on. He's got a full car length advantage. But Leclerc again has it here. He fights back, swings to the right side. He's going to take the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix. Stroll will fade in P2. The two Mercedes of Hamilton and Russell will now try to hunt down the Aston Martin Canadian driver in front of them. As for myself, we're dead last, P20, and I was quite concerned early on. Tire temperatures every single lap were getting higher, and that was not good, of course. So you really don't want to see 105 degrees or more, and we had hit that 105, 106 degree mark.
Okay, the tyres are overheating here.
I mean, there's not really a lot I can do right now. So you hear our conversation there, very brief, with Mark, straight to the point. I don't think I can do much. I mean, 106, 107 degrees even on the left rear. Not really concerned about the outside temperature there, the, you know, surface of the tire, because that cools down really quick, but you saw that going up in the S's section. But it was so hard to pass. It's lap 6, and Max Verstappen, the best driver, the best car on the grid, has gone nowhere. He's still stuck behind Zhou Guanyu. We have, of course, now if you look at the track map, you can see that Charles Leclerc, he's driven away from everybody, and Lance Stroll's fading towards the Mercedes now. The two Mercedes are definitely going to run him down in the coming laps now. But yeah, I mean, everybody else, I mean, there's no overtaking, and you look at the track map again, you can kind of see it's kind of split into 2 ways right now. So we got the V-carbs kind of backing up there with Ricciardo and Tsunoda, with the Haas cars mixed in around them. But look at my temperatures now, 109 degrees on the left rear, 106. The surface of the tire was through the roof as well. That is just a recipe for disaster. Our pit stop is not planned until about lap 15 or 16. I cannot run that many more laps like that because, of course, that higher tire temperature just meaning a lot more slip out of the rear wheel, making it impossible for me to do anything. Is now Lando Norris putting the pressure on his McLaren teammate. Oscar Piastri knows he needs to step it up. He knows his ride is on the line. Of course, we got an offer from McLaren to replace Oscar Piastri. We turned it down, and Zach Brown was pretty confident in saying that if I turned down the McLaren offer, they were probably going to give Piastri one more season in the McLaren. However, you never know what's going to happen. It is Formula One at the end of the day, a lot of politics within this sport. Now, as that was happening, I was told by Mark that Zhou Guanyu was having a mechanical issue, and you could see immediately Verstappen was pouncing on that opportunity, and he's going to get the job done, I think. Zhou not making it easy, but Verstappen clear and on the run towards the next corner. Bottas going for the same move around the outside of Zhou, the two Sauber kick machines. Wheel to wheel, where do I go? We can't really do anything, so we just kind of have to settle in, as now we're going to watch Bottas kind of do his thing as we go into this double right-hander, and they still cannot get clear of one another. Hold on. Bottas takes the position, but I'm not close enough to pounce on Zhou, so we're going to have to be patient and wait. As we start lap 11, we're starting to see things pick up here. Hamilton has run down Stroll and passes him, and now here comes Piastri back at Lando Norris, his teammate, into turn number 1, wheel to wheel again. These two are not going to give up now. Piastri trying to say, hey, I belong here. I belong in one of the best teams. And a few moments later, George Russell now breezes past Lance Stroll. Something seems to be going on with that Aston Martin. If you paid attention, you noticed the red light was blinking a lot. He is in harvest mode for whatever reason, but nonetheless, up the inside we go of the struggling Zhou Guanyu. We take the position away. So things are starting to happen now, but, I mean, Verstappen's 3 seconds up the road. Bottas is about 1.1, and I'm still slipping and sliding. my tire temperatures way too high as Lance Stroll continues. I mean, he's lost 2 spots in 1 lap. He's about to lose a 3rd as Pierre Gasly in the Alpine, who should not be running this far up the grid, is doing it anyways, into 4th place. What a drive from the Frenchman as his teammate of Esteban Ocon currently back in the 11th position here now on lap 12 of 36. At this point, I said, okay, we need to come into the pits. We need to do something. I can't manage these tire temps and I can't find any speed, obviously, so we need to pit.
Box at the end of next lap, end of next lap.
So we're not pitting at the end of this lap. We're going to wait 1 more lap and just tough it out a little bit further. And you can see, I mean, I'm just sliding on the exit of every corner with just a bare minimum throttle input, but it was so frustrating, obviously, as the battles are continuing. Piastri, who passed Norris back, has now run down Lance Stroll, who continues to fall down the order. He'll pass the Canadian. Into P5 goes Piastri. Not anymore. The Australian locks up on the turn 1 apex, loses 3 spots in 1 go. Norris and Albon slip through, as well as Stroll back into 5th. Alonso 9th, Carlos Sainz P10, while his teammate of Leclerc runs in the 1st position. Of course, Carlos Sainz announced last episode alongside myself to go to Trackhouse Racing. We will be teammates with the Spaniard next season with the brand new American team that joins the grid. Of course, that was the big news going into the final part of this season, with Trackhouse confirming their driver lineup. But we pit at the end of lap 13, coming to 14 here. We're going to be pitting about 2 to 3 laps earlier than the majority of the field, and that is going to give us the opportunity, as we have a very solid pit stop, fortunately, about 2.5 seconds. It's going to give us the opportunity to just try and make up a bunch of time and hopefully put ourselves ahead of some other cars. I'm not sure how far ahead, but obviously we need to do something because we haven't been able to pass all race long. Speaking of passing, Alex Albon goes through, passing Lance Stroll. What a disaster this has turned into for the Canadian. Piastri just behind in that 8th position now, as we are starting to immediately just find as much time as we possibly can here in this Williams. Now, if you pay attention to the gaps, I mean, you see Verstappen 25 seconds ahead, but Valtteri Bottas 23.5, 22.9 to Magnussen, as well as you can see Alonso now lap 16. He'll pass Lance Stroll from 1st to 9th in a matter of about, well, I guess 13 or so laps, but still has to be absolutely devastating for the Canadian now. And I mean, Canada, maybe not a great day so far for our drivers. We are, of course, looking at a situation where we could find ourselves towards the top 10, depending on how this all works out once everybody pits. If you look at the timing there on the leaderboard, we are definitely gaining some track time. So here comes the leader of Charles Leclerc to come in and get his pit stop done, and he is, I mean, in just dominant fashion, dominant form here so far to kick off this, you know, basically from lap 3 to now. As here's Stroll, Lance Stroll with an issue, mechanical failure, then he's holding up a whole group of cars. Ocon back, everyone slowing up. Stroll's day comes to an end. I mean, maybe making sense. We saw him tumbling down the order, but we're coming around, and this is going to be an opportunity for us now. We are going to pass Stroll, of course, but let's look at the cars that had to slow down. Verstappen was in that group as well. We're going to breeze past a whole group right here, including Esteban Ocon. Look at the track position, track time we have gained by pitting 2-3 laps earlier, maybe even 4 laps, I should say, at this point, 4, even close to 5 laps earlier than some of these guys. So this is going to be huge for us, because now we might gain some more track position from this next group that is coming into the pits, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Ocon's run us down, but we're passing Zhou, who's in the pits, Hulkenberg, Ricardo, Perez, into the top 10 right here on our teammate of Alex Albon. Ocon closing quickly, side by side with our teammate, but here comes Ocon, forces it 3 wide to Williams in the sandwich here, as now we are going to be the one that commits to it, though. We stay in front of both of them, as Albon's going to find himself in a side-by-side battle, and Max Verstappen is somehow won out in this pit stop cycle as well. He's into the mix, he's right there, so he has found a way to gain some track position. But what a strategy call from myself, actually, to make that decision. Hey, we need to pit, and now here comes Carlos Sainz with mechanical issues. Sainz, the Spaniard, our future teammate's going to be done for the day as we breeze past, and that's our second mechanical failure in the last few laps there, and it's Mexican Grand Prix over for Carlos Sainz. Now in the Ferrari, his teammate of Leclerc continues to lead the way. We now find ourselves in 8th position after running in 20th for the a lot of the first half of this Grand Prix, but Max Verstappen had gotten his way through traffic and had run me down and passed me with ease. Albon P11, but you can see the gap to them because they had been battling so hard behind, but Perez would slip through and pass Ocon as well and move himself into P11, and Verstappen was driving away. So now, looking behind us, the two targets that could run us down before this race is over, quite simple: Esteban Ocon and Sergio Perez. They are both gaining. Perez gaining a lot more than Ocon, but Ocon is gaining on me. So we're looking at anywhere from 9th, 10th to 11th position here today in this Mexican Grand Prix. Now, we're going to go through the grid here, coming to 10 laps to go as Charles Leclerc is in front.
It's the day of Charles Leclerc. He took the lead on lap 3 and has not looked back. 10 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton with 10 laps to go. We're also joined by both Justin Marks of Trackhouse Racing and Sebastian Vettel today. Let's start with you, Seb. I understand you have a big announcement to share with us.
Yeah, I just wanted to put it out there now. It's been a while since I've been behind the wheel of an F1 car, so I am excited to share I won't be driving one anytime soon. However, I am delighted to share that I will be the team principal of the new Audi team starting next season.
That is great for you and the sport. Congratulations, Seb. Did this all come together after Owen signed with Trackhouse? I'm sure you would have seeked him out.
Audi approached me 3 days after Gary signed with Justin. I would have been trying to sign him for sure.
So over to you, Justin. Why Owen and Sainz for your lineup?
So Gary is proving he has incredible speed. He just needs to find the consistency. His aspirations and goals align perfectly with ours at Trackhouse. We want to take him global and put him in other worlds of racing to show what these F1 drivers are capable of. And Carlos is a great free agent that has wins and years of experience, but still being young enough to be around for a long time. I think Gary can learn a lot off of him too. Both of them are signed for 3 years, but I am confident we're going to be with them both for longer than that.
And there you have through the grid here from this Mexican Grand Prix weekend now, and we continue to run P9, but the gap to Ocon's gone down a little bit further, only about 1.9 to 2 seconds. The gap to Perez continues to shrink as well, just over 3 seconds to the Mexican in his home Grand Prix. Now we go behind the camera one final time this weekend here, and you just continue to watch that gap to Perez drop. He is actually all over the back of Esteban Ocon, actually side by side fighting with him, so he would eventually get that pass complete and move himself into P10. Now, the problem for me is he is running me down really quickly, but as well, Ocon's able to latch on to that DRS of Perez, so Perez running me down is also going to allow Ocon to run me down, so it's going to get really interesting here over the next few laps. Lap 30 at this point, and my rear end's starting to slide a little bit, and I notice my tire temperatures, my left rear was now up to 107 degrees, and yeah, I mean, the hards, they haven't quite been as bad as the mediums in terms of temperature, because the temperature on the mediums shot through the roof really quick, and we struggled for so long. The hards has taken a lot longer, but nonetheless, Perez, 4 laps to go, marching his way forward, passes us. Verstappen has been able to continue to march his way forward as well. He has passed Fernando Alonso as well. He has been able to latch on to the back of Pierre Gasly. He could get a 5th or 4th place finish. I myself am struggling though to hang on to points. I continue to struggle as my left rear has now hit 109 degrees now, and here comes Esteban Ocon with the run, putting both of the Alpines into the points. What a day for the French team, and especially Pierre Gasly. But now, as that was happening just a few moments prior, Max Verstappen as well, he's going to pass Pierre Gasly through turns 1 and 2, completes it right there, moves him into P5. As you can see, Norris runs in that 4th position. Can Verstappen run down Norris before this race is over? He's got 2 laps to do exactly that now, as I myself with these final 2 laps underway didn't quite have enough for Ocon here as we approach the final lap of the Mexican Grand Prix. And here we go. Max Verstappen on the front straightaway breezes past his good friend of Norris into 4th place. What a drive through the field. Gasly, P6. Can he run down Norris, who seems to be in harvesting mode on this final lap? Here he comes. And now Pierre Gasly through into 5th as Norris drops a few spots on this final lap. What a day for the Frenchman as I get close, but not close enough to Ocon to start this final lap. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately, for myself, unless we can find a way right here. We're going to drain our whole battery, use DRS. Is it going to be enough? Not looking like it. Ocon's definitely using his battery. Sure enough, we're not close enough to make a move, and that's likely going to do it, as it's Charles Leclerc rounding the final turn. Win number 3 on the season for the Monegasque driver.
Yes, let's go guys. Thank you for the hard work, everyone.
And that's Leclerc's 8th win of his Formula One career now. Russell, Hamilton, second and third. Verstappen, what a drive to get all the way back up into fourth position now, as we are going to just come up short of points. But at the end of the day, we started 19th, ran 20th for a large portion of the first half of the Grand Prix. Used strategy to get the track position, and it's going to be enough to at least get P11, P12 for Williams. So 11th, 12th for myself, Albon. We'll take it, honestly. P11, I am not even mad about that one. We will gladly take that position. Right, boys, not an easy day, but I mean, what a drive to get us back up there. Great strategy calls, everybody, and yeah, thank you guys.
Great drive, mate. Wasn't easy, but we made it work.
Thanks for the patience, Gary. Great initiative as well on the strategy call. Great drive.
And Leclerc to the line, to the checkered flag. It's King Charles today. He wins.
What a win for Charles Leclerc. Of course, mathematically, he is able to keep his championship hopes alive. Realistically, they are definitely over. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But you never know. Never say never. Verstappen could have a biblically bad final few races, although extremely unlikely. We have a lot of good races coming up as well with Sao Paulo, Brazil. That's a sprint weekend, though. But then we have Las Vegas. We have Qatar. We got Abu Dhabi as well. So it'll be an interesting end to the season as we hear Lewis Hamilton on the podium.
Yeah, a great day for George and myself, honestly. We've struggled the last few weeks, so it's nice to be back up here.
And you hear Lewis Hamilton there just saying, yeah, I mean, Mercedes, it's not been an easy run for them in the last few episodes, but they pick it up here this weekend and kind of look back to, you know, where they were a little bit earlier on in the season where George Russell was able to get a win. Hamilton was able to go and win in the Austrian Grand Prix. We know Hamilton leaving Mercedes, going to Ferrari at the end of the season. So, of course, he wants to get what he can out of it before the season comes to an end. Carlos Sainz, another guy that wants to get what he can out of it. We know he's going to Trackhouse, so a lot of changes on the way, but there's going to be more changes, I'm sure, that we don't really know about yet. But Verstappen has a 74-point advantage going into the Brazilian Grand Prix, as we are still 26 points ahead of our teammate of Alex Albon. Now in the Constructors, Red Bull out in front by 118 points. I'll see you guys in the next episode for the Brazilian Grand Prix, one of my favorite tracks in the world. I'm hoping that we can, of course, bring some success to Williams there. I'll see you guys then. Have a great day.